Welcome, everyone. We are live now, and I want to welcome you to World Coffee Research's annual Think and Drink event. This is the virtual version that we can share with our friends and members around the world. So we're expecting quite a few folks to join us today. So while everyone's logging in, please make sure that you've got a drink in your hand. If you don't, go ahead and grab one. We'll wait a minute or two to start. And in the meantime, I thought that we could just go around with my colleagues and share a little bit about what we're drinking today. So I'll start off. It is evening here in Germany. So I've moved on to decaf, and I'm drinking a lovely decaf from Peru made by a local roaster here. James, you're next to me on the screen. Can I ask you?
Good morning. Good morning from Chicago. I am enjoying a lovely Intelligentsia coffee, shockingly, I know. It's a pink Bourbon from Colombia, from the Huila region, from an experimental farm that we work with, and it is absolutely stunning.
Awesome. Tanya, handing off to you.
Thanks, Alexa. I've got a good one that's actually a single origin, single variety, a millennial that comes from one of our research partners at Cartier. So I had the pleasure of visiting with them a few weeks ago, and William Solano, who I think may even be on the call today, gave this to me. So it's millennial and it's really quite lovely. Thank you, William.
Sweet. Vern, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for those of you calling in from different time zones. This morning, I am enjoying an Ethiopian blend from a number of regions across the country. It was particularly exciting to me because we've been working really hard on global advocacy for mobilizing investment in coffee breeding in Ethiopia. So I thought I would start with the birthplace of Arabica for today.
Very fitting. All right, thank you. So to those of you that have just joined us in this last minute, welcome. My name is Alexa Heinecke. I'm the Senior Corporate Membership Manager here at World Coffee Research. For those of you that aren't familiar with this event, this is our annual update and report out to the coffee community. And we are delighted to have you with us today from around the world. So World Coffee Research was founded by the industry, we are funded by the industry, and led by you all. Today, we number over 170 companies in 29 countries. And it gives me great pleasure to recognize 2 new board members from Starbucks and Key Coffee, a new advisory committee member from Sukden, and 57 companies who joined us as members over the last 16 months. We deeply appreciate all of you in the industry who are co-investing in this important effort. So with me today, and you heard from them earlier, starting on the left, so we have Dr. Vern Long, CEO here at World Coffee Research, Dr. Tanya Humphrey, our Director of Research and Development, and James McLaughlin, our Board Chair and the CEO of Intelligentsia Coffee. So over the next hour together, we look forward to giving you an update on our research progress in 23, an outlook of what's ahead in 2024 and beyond, and we'll aim to leave the last 15 minutes for Q&A. So please go ahead and enter your questions in the chat box over to the right as they come to mind, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end. James, over to you.
Well, hello, everybody. It's really, really, really nice to be with all of you. This is one of my favorite events of the year because World Coffee Research, as Alexa just said, is an organization that exists because all of us on this call are donating money to make sure that the really, really important work continues to happen. And this event here is a chance for us to share an update on all the really important work that's happening. I think one of the most important things for us as an industry is we now have, with World Coffee Research, a scientific organization full of some of the very brightest scientific minds from around the world working on problems that affect farms across the world. And I don't think that there is anything more exciting happening in coffee right now than the stuff that WCR is working on. And you're going to hear a little bit about it. we as an industry for too long have not done the work to support the farmers that are critical to all of us. As all of you know, without the farmers, we wouldn't be here. And the type of work that World Coffee Research and the plant breeders are doing is really, really, really exciting. And I'm not going to share all that. I'm going to let the team that's actually doing the work talk more about that. But so on behalf of the board of directors, I just wanted to thank you all for coming. I wanted to thank you all for your support, your financial support, because without the money that you donate to WCR, we wouldn't be able to do this important work. So I hope that you find the updates as exciting as we do on the board. And I look forward to spending some time and answering questions at the end. So with that, I will kick it over to Tanya to kick us off.
Great. Thank you, James. I also just want to pause a moment to thank James and the rest of the WCR board, all of our member companies, our staff, and especially our global partners worldwide. We're all working together to really address a set of shared priorities for the coffee industry. So one of the ways that we can look and measure the level of R&D that's happening in any agricultural crop is by looking at the numbers of commercial varieties that are registered in the International Variety Registration Database. So if we look at the numbers of varieties, so really you need many, many different varieties to perform in different countries around the world, so different climates, different soil conditions, pest and disease pressures, varieties that are going to address different market segments and consumer preferences. All of this need for varieties exists. And so if we compare coffee to a globally important crop, such as apples, which is also another tree crop, you can see that there's something like 5,000 varieties of apples registered in this database compared to only around 100 varieties of coffee that's registered. So you can see that this is a vast deficit in R&D that's happening in coffee breeding. And you can see probably many of you on the call would share the perspective that this simply isn't enough. So into this space is where we start to do our work as World Coffee Research. So varieties are really a fundamental building block of any agricultural production system. Indeed, the variety is one of the first choices a farmer will have to make. Essentially, what am I going to grow on my piece of land? So a farmer has to think about the local climate, the soils, the pest and disease pressures, the production system that they're going to be using, the level of resources that they're willing to invest in crop production. So the right varieties are typically bred for purpose, and the right variety choice is critical for a farmer's success, for their profitability, and the sustainability of their farm. So everything we do at WCR is focused on varieties. Our entire research portfolio is all about getting varieties, new, improved varieties into farmers' hands. And that means quite literally available to farmers. So we very much think about this entire variety pipeline, right from the upstream, the science and the research, the breeding end, right through to trials in multiple environments, through to registration in each individual country, and propagation, scale up, and distribution, so that those varieties are really available to many farmers at origin. So we think about this entire pipeline, and these are the areas in which we work. So we have 3 general program areas focused on different parts of this pipeline. So the first is our breeding program, then we have trials, and then we also do a lot of work at this later stage in nursery and seed sector work. So at WCR, we are focused on getting varieties into farmers' hands. And what this means is in many diverse origins. We're doing this in multiple countries at a time. And so when we think about varieties in countries, really it's quite simply comes down to this simple metric of numbers of varieties in numbers of countries that are available to farmers. So this is the metric going forward that we're going to be using to measure our success. So now I just want to give you a few highlights from our work in the past year. As you know, we give this update every year, so we like to present a bit of our latest progress. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Innovea, which is our global Arabica breeding network that we launched just about 2 years ago now. So in 2023, in the last year, this was really the time when this network became an operational, functional reality. So this is a global breeding collaboration with 9 partner countries all working together with us to breed improved Arabica varieties. So we're doing the breeding in a very coordinated and collaborative way to test this population of material. So we have around 5,000 unique individual trees that are part of this breeding population, and it's being evaluated across 11 different sites right around the world. So evaluating this material at so many different environments really allows us to understand how it performs in different climatic conditions, and it allows us to select really climate resilient new varieties as well that are tailored to the local needs in each country. And so the first new varieties that are projected to come out of this network are likely to come in around 2036, so sometime from now. But the progress in 2023, like I said, it really became a reality. And I think this is true for many of our partners. So in 2023, we harvested the seed from the first crosses and we sent that seed out to our partners all around the world. And they sent us back some of these great photos that you can see here of them germinating the seeds, growing the seedlings in the nursery. And so here's some pictures from some of our partners: Rwanda, Costa Rica, Uganda, Kenya, and Mexico, as well as this work is ongoing in Peru and Hawaii, Indonesia, and India. So all of these partners have now received the material and are growing it up for planting in this network. And if you see the bottom 2 pictures also, these are our own breeding sites, which is the breeding factories that we've established, which are even larger scale, at 2 different sites through our partner Cartier in Costa Rica and at our own research farm in El Salvador. So all of this material is going into the ground as we speak and will continue over the coming year to grow and be evaluated. 2023 was also the year that we really started to get serious about Robusta breeding. So this means what we're looking to do in Robusta is kind of essentially the same thing as the Arabica breeding network. So we're looking at building a global Robusta breeding network, and we're at the very early stages. So in 2023, we focused on laying the groundwork for this network. So really understanding what is the opportunity, what is the need for Robusta breeding. And we published these 2 reports. The first one on the left is really about the opportunity in itself. It's the business case, essentially. Why do we need to do Robusta breeding as a global initiative? And a lot of this is about fulfilling a projected supply shortfall. So by 2040, there's a projected global shortfall of Robusta. So it's really critical that we improve productivity in all of the Robusta producing countries, and varieties are a key tool to be able to do this. So that's established the business case for why do breeding in the first place. And then we started to explore also the topic of quality. So as we start to think about breeding targets, we know quality is something we want to target in Robusta. How can we improve quality? The first thing we need to do is to even understand what even is quality. Everyone talks about it in a different way, and our breeding team need to turn that into tangible breeding targets. So understanding Robusta quality was certainly a first critical part of the planning. And so all of this planning work is ongoing. We have done a number of other things. We've developed the technical plan for the breeding that we're going to do. We've done a comprehensive genetic analysis of all of the Robusta material that we have to breed with. And right now, just 2 days ago, I got back from the field in El Salvador where our breeding team was doing the very first crosses for this breeding network. So that is happening right now on the ground, those crosses are done. And while we are waiting for that first seed to mature, we are continuing with our partnership discussions and negotiations to get the set of global partners that will join us in this network. So certainly you'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming years. Now onto our trials program. So our trials program has been going for quite some time. And certainly many of you may be familiar already with our large international multi-location variety trial, our IMLVT, as we like to call it. So this is where we have taken 31 of the world's top commercial varieties and put them across 29 sites in 18 different countries around the world. So this trial has been ongoing for 6 or 7 years now, and 2023, of course, was another year of evaluating the performance of this material. But the trial is now reaching kind of maturity. So we're at an interesting phase where we're starting to close down and wrap up some of those mature trial sites, as well as we are transitioning to a new phase of IMLVT, where we've selected 6 of representative sites in 6 different countries, and they will be continuing, those 6, for another 6-year period, so that we get a really good long-term look at variety performance. Because after 6 years, you're not necessarily getting the full picture. Ideally, you would look at a bit longer, even up to 12 years. So at 6 of the sites, we are continuing for that longer period of time. And so in 2023, we transitioned into that new phase. Those trees have been pruned and are now being maintained, and further data is being collected. So that will be ongoing. The other part of our trials program that I wanted to highlight is our F1 hybrids. Now, if any of you were at the SCA Expo in Chicago just a couple of weeks ago, you may have had the opportunity to participate in the cupping of these F1 hybrids, or maybe on a different occasion. Certainly, a lot of our member companies have experienced and tasted these new varieties. So these hybrids were created from crosses that were made by our organization some years ago. And these were crosses between Geisha as a high cup quality variety and Sarchimor varieties, which are high yielding rust resistant varieties. So by crossing these 2 distantly related varieties, what we have as a result are known as F1 hybrids. And so we have what we have called the top 4. So the top 4 cross combinations that came out of this experiment. And we've selected 3 individuals of each of those 4. So what we have is 12 potential new varieties that we are now rolling out to pre-commercial trials in Latin America. And so what we've done is those 12 varieties, we have been propagating them through tissue culture, and this is being done by our partner in Costa Rica at Cartier. They're propagating these plants to multiply them up so that we have around 1,000 of each. And then they're going to be moving out to our partners. So we issued some time ago, we issued a call to our member companies for anyone who is interested in running trials in Latin America. And we got a fantastic response to that call. And we've now selected some of the partners to run these trials. We're currently in plannings and final stage negotiations. So the trials will now be going out in the coming months into 3 countries, Guatemala, Costa Rica, and Peru, in the coming months. So in 24 and 25, those trials will be planted, and those trees will be evaluated for a period of around 6 years. The other thing I wanted to highlight is a new project that we're quite excited about. It's a fairly small project, but a really interesting new collaboration with a research group out of Colombia, who we are working with to combine their sophisticated approach to data analysis and climate modeling, and combining that approach with our real world data set coming out of the IMLVT on variety performance. So by combining variety performance data with this climate modeling data, will enable us to really make much more sophisticated and powerful recommendations about which variety is going to perform best in which environment. And so this might be new countries, new regions where varieties are going in, or new climates, thinking about as the climate changes, and we need to put the best varieties into the best places, and new environments that simply haven't been tested before. This data-centered approach really allows us to make the best of what we have available and to make the most likely recommendations to farmers in those countries. So that's something we're really excited about. Those results will be ready by around the end of the year, and we're going to be following up by building a really neat interactive web tool so that others will be able to go directly onto our website and plug in their data and get the variety choices out of that. So we're really excited about that. Then the last thing I wanted to highlight for our progress from 2023 was the publication of this DNA fingerprinting tool for variety identification. Now, this is something we've been developing and refining over the past several years, mostly as kind of an in-house tool that we use for evaluating and cleaning up various nurseries and seed lots around the world, which Vern's going to actually talk about a little bit later. But we developed this tool. We've used it a lot for really high throughput, low cost fingerprinting of varieties in the field. So this is the nurseries and the seed lots that are supplying the varieties to farmers, and we're able to assess those seed lots using this tool. And so what we did in the past year is packaged it up in a way to make it publicly available. So we've worked with a partner in Sweden, Intertech, who's a DNA lab who offers these services. And now, because we've released this, Intertech are able to offer these services to any member of the public, any company, anyone else who wants to use it as a paying customer can now access this tool. So that is available through Intertech, but also what we did was to publish all of the technical details on our website. So any other DNA lab or service provider can now see all of the technical details and establish this as a tool to be provided to other members of the public or even in-house research and analysis. So that is now available, and we hope to see many others using it in the future. So all of these initiatives are really about the industry working together. And what makes this so powerful is particularly our collaboration with partners at origin, like National Coffee Institutes, which really allow us to give us genuinely a global reach of all of our research. So now we're going to show you a little bit of a video, which really highlights this global collaboration.
Coffee is an incredible beverage that unites millions of people around the world. In order to sustain that, we need to make improvements in how coffee breeding is done. And one of the most important things that we can do is bring together countries to collaborate and bring their expertise and their tools and their good ideas to make faster progress.
I feel the most exciting element about the Innovator Network is bringing together countries around the world, different growing environments and different challenges to cultivating coffee.
It's very unique. So it's been an effort that hasn't really come together. It's just all of the breeders, coffee breeders, thinking about releasing new varieties and evaluating the varieties in different environments. That doesn't happen any often in any breeding program.
It's really new and different, and we see that with our partners, how exciting it is for them to come and join and be a part of this.
We're very grateful to be part of the global network of Innovea.
Innovea representa una gran oportunidad para fortalecer al sector cafetalero de México.
We can expand and we can strengthen the networking between coffee researchers in the world.
we're able to exchange knowledge and information that is useful in our breeding programs.
Most of the coffee growing countries have done tremendous work in the coffee sector. So bringing all together at one platform is very, very essential. Being a research person, getting an information itself is a very, very important.
So we're all working together in a very coordinated way to evaluate the same genetic material in many different environments in many countries around the world.
We have access to more breeders talking together, a lot of material being exchanged and being bred together, a lot of technologies being used to evaluate the material.
And all the data is centralized and coordinated by us, our team, but our partners are all working to evaluate this material under their own conditions in their own environment.
The difference in the past with the breeding and now with this program in Innovea is to increase the speed of breeding with new materials, genetic materials, increasing the productivity and resilience of the plants.
It's addressing global coffee sector challenges in a collaborative way.
So those are the things that we want to see. How can Innovea come in and also create these partnerships with these institutions that have already used these technologies to shorten the breeding cycle in coffee to a very short breeding period instead of 20 to 30 years, to bring it to at least around 15 to 20 years.
Definitely there is climate change and associated ecosystem changes. Innovea facilitates the assessment of breeding materials and what is being bred to be assessed in very wide areas, which addresses the potential and the real climate change parameters so that the outputs are more informed and we have better varieties to serve the industry.
For us, it's important to have new varieties in our system because it's going to diversify the genotype that we have in our country. These new genotypes could help us to face the changing environment and several extreme conditions that we may face in the future.
I believe that Innovea will impact farmers around the world through improved productivity and enhanced tolerance to diseases.
By giving them the best varieties for their own local environment. It means they're able to produce productively, they can profit off the land, they can sell coffee and stay in business. Varieties are a fundamental tool that enables them to do that.
Innovea permite contar con una estrategia a corto plazo para obtener resultados que favorezcan a los productores en forma inmediata.
So through Innovea breeding program, we are getting a good planting material. So this will definitely uplift the economic lifestyle of farmers. So in turn, it will uplift the global productivity and national productivity.
We are an industry association with investment from global coffee companies. We are globally oriented and we absolutely have a vested interest in seeing many diverse origins of supply to continue to succeed.
World Coffee Research is uniquely placed to be able to lead this operation because of our network of staff around the world and the contacts and cooperation we have with national coffee institutes.
WCR scientist research team is incredible because it's now introducing new breeding technologies that hasn't been used in coffee.
Innovea is a fundamental, indispensable, invaluable, vital, and it is very, very essential to the coffee industry, especially to carry out that legacy and the requirement and demand of the coffee sector.
I hope that this really inspired you about the extraordinary work that we're doing in close partnership with countries around the world. The presentation that Tanya offered is showing you the global agenda, the global research that we're generating through a distributed breeding network, working closely with national partners to identify the best materials for production at a global scale. So really using all the global data to understand performance of varieties. But we know that production is local. And our nursery team partners at Origin to ensure that we take this incredible innovation coming out of breeding programs and available varieties that already exist, and ensuring that those materials, those varieties are delivering value to farmers at Origin. Our work in the nursery program is something that I'll describe based on the activities we've been doing, but also looking ahead in how we can prepare for the infusion of new genetic materials, of new varieties that are on the very near horizon. We're now calling it the medium-term outputs instead of the long-term outputs. But the nursery team, their job is to deliver value to the supply chain today, to make sure that farmers have access to high-quality planting material in their countries today, in partnership with many of the partners at Origin. So our team, Jimmy in Peru, Nuzul in Indonesia, Maureen in Uganda, Jesslyn based in Nicaragua, she services Central America, and Amelia, the team leader for the nursery program. This team is tasked with taking this forward, building on the work we've done around quality assurance. Many of you have seen the results of our genetic testing across the region. In Central America, with support from the US government's MOCA program, a USDA program, we have tested seed lots to understand just how much genetic conformity there is. So it's good to have a lot of genetic conformity. If you want to purchase a variety that is leaf rust resistant, you want to make sure that that variety actually is what it says on the package. That quality assurance is critical for reducing farmer risk. And so this work to assess the seed lots has been consequential for supporting the entire seed system to have the quality planting material required. So once a breeder develops a variety, the next stop is a seed lot. A high quality variety that's performed well will be established in a seed lot, and that's essentially a bunch of trees of a variety that will be the source of material for nurseries and ultimately farmers. Our team has assessed the seed lots across Central America through this program and identified that there were many seed lots that were providing varieties, providing material to farmers that was not what farmers thought it was. And that is risk in our system. That is risk to farmers because they are planting something that they don't even know if it will perform the way they thought it would. And it's risk to supply in terms of export revenue for countries. So if many farmers are planting material from seed lots with low genetic conformity, this could present tremendous risk to an origin that seeks to export a consistent or growing supply of coffee in the years ahead. So the most important source of focus, or the most important focus for our work is on this seed lots because it's where all the planting material cascades to all of those growers across the landscape. So this work was really important for us to understand the magnitude of the problem and to use the tools that Tanya described to make this faster, better, cheaper. So by using that new SNP, low density SNP genotyping tool, we were able to dramatically expand this kind of work because the cost was much lower. So by reducing cost, we can make quality assurance accessible. In addition to testing seed lots, our program in quality assurance in the coffee seed sector with this MOCA program didn't just stop at identifying seed lots that were high performing. And you can find that information on our websites. For those of you in producing countries across Central America and Peru, you can actually find the list of seed lots who agreed to include their information on our website. So if you're looking for high quality source of material, you can go to that list and get that information today. And I think that's the point about the nursery team, is they're ensuring that information is available today to inform current practices. The breeding program is crucial to ensuring the flow of materials through the system, but the nursery team is ensuring that that material is getting into the hands of farmers and the information is cascading into the community. This report is available on our website. I encourage those of you who are very interested in getting a deep dive into the issues facing the planting material distribution systems in Central America and Peru can use this as a resource to help understand the magnitude of the problem, and where, especially for many of our member companies who invest in renovation activities, this can be a first stop in educating yourself about the challenges in specific origins and how you can provide support to many of the network of partners on the ground. In addition to the general report that we produced with MOCA, we've also had very concrete activities through the Czech Cafe program with participating nurseries. A number of nurseries not only wanted to source high quality genetics from seedlots available in their countries, but they also wanted to make sure that they had good agricultural practices to make sure that they could generate and sell high quality, healthy planting material. It's not enough to just have a genetically conforming variety. From the moment that the seed germinates, we want to protect that plant so that it has the greatest potential performance over the time of its production potential, even up to 30 years. And as you all know, whether it's your own children or your baby trees, protecting your trees from its very earliest years are really important to ensure long-term productivity and success. The Czech Cafe program is a training program that all of the materials are available on our website. The information is available so that you could actually look at what is done in this program to improve the quality of good agricultural practices implementation, as well as ensuring the genetic conformity of materials that the team is using. We've also, as Tanya mentioned, made the seedlot tools available. This is not enclosed or privatized. We certainly made the service available to the whole world by engaging the partner in Sweden, but any entity can use these tools and to stand up their own service, or even National Coffee Institutes can use the data, the code, everything's on our website to make it radically transparent and radically accessible to ensure the greatest possible benefit from these low-cost tools to ensure genetic conformity. And this is the kind of concrete action that we can take today to ensure that farmers can make the best use of all of those genetics that are available today, recognizing that even better material is on the way. Our work has not just been confined to Central America. We've also engaged quite a bit in Uganda on supporting nursery and seedlot development and mother gardens, so working both in Arabica and Robusta across Uganda. We've engaged in a number of trainings of nursery operators. We just completed training of Arabica nursery operators in the fall. In October, November, we did trainings in close collaboration with national authorities in the Robusta sector. This is the kind of work that we seek to engage because we know that national programs, National Coffee Institutes, and the marketing authorities that are responsible for ensuring high quality planting material is making its way across the landscape. We realize that their job is huge and it's challenging, and climate change is only accelerating the challenges that producing countries are facing, not only in managing coffee production and ensuring farmers have what they need to succeed, but even the challenges that climate change brings with increased flooding or market access, roads. We realize the challenges facing origin are enormous, and we believe that our work in close collaboration with national authorities can give them the support, and to know that they're deeply supported by the industry to achieve greater success for farmers through these kinds of tools to ensure that the planting material that makes its way through supply chains is high quality, is healthy, and can ensure that farmers can achieve their own production goals with this improved material. So looking ahead, I wanted to take us from these concrete activities that we're generating right now at Origin and looking ahead to the broader picture of where we see the industry going in the months and years ahead. In 2023, we generated this analysis to better understand the magnitude of the investment gap in coffee. We realized that this investment gap can be staggering, but it's also an indication of the opportunity. If we start to chip away at this investment gap and systematically orient resources towards the most strategic investment areas with the greatest return potential, we can actually drive tremendous value for farmers, improve opportunity and prosperity, while also reducing risk for individual farmers and reducing risk to global supply. And this is the kind of it may seem like a big number, but as you break it down to how we can actually operationalize this investment, we can make tremendous gains in the months and years ahead. by mobilizing investment to address the challenges facing our sector. This analysis helped us understand the magnitude of the issue and the importance of advocating for deeper investment in agricultural research. It's not enough just to provide technical assistance to farmers with existing technology. We know that with climate change, every other commodity across our food systems, if you think about when you go to the grocery store, all of those fruits and vegetables that you consume, all of those commodities have substantial research investments underneath them to ensure that you can have a stable supply of quality food. Coffee is no different. And we believe that by elevating the challenges facing coffee, we can mobilize deeper investment, not only from our member companies, but additional companies across the community, and align together on a shared agenda with national trade associations to communicate this to our public sector investors. The public sector has historically invested in agricultural R&D in support of farmers, and coffee has had challenges in mobilizing public investment because it's not produced in a lot of consuming countries that have robust R&D budgets for agriculture. And so it is this work to escalate, to elevate and accelerate the awareness and understanding of the challenges facing coffee, the opportunity of investment in agricultural R&D to drive change and to create a prosperous, more optimistic future for coffee, that this work is being born. So we are so thankful for and looking forward to continued engagement with our national trade associations to elevate these issues to public authorities in consuming countries and to find a shared agenda between origin countries, the communities across origin countries, from producers to those in the planting material distribution system, to our own industry partners and member companies, as well as national governments in consuming countries. So it's really bringing this entire shared agenda together to advance towards a much more prosperous and optimistic future. And I think that this is really the heart of what we do at WCR, is that we believe that by co-defining shared investment with the public sector and mobilizing investment in the most impactful, highest ROI, returns on investment areas, we can ensure that origin diversity continues and that farmers can thrive and be prosperous. As Tanya mentioned, the anchoring metric for our work is focused on preserving origin diversity, and we communicate that. The metric that communicates that is, in the end, it comes down to the number of varieties that are available in a number of countries. We recognize that each country is, and particularly national authorities that are responsible for supporting the coffee sector, the national governments are accountable to ensure continued export revenue and continued success of farmers. And we realize that variety release in a country is a function of government authorities taking very careful look at variety performance, because no one wants to distribute a variety that's not going to perform and generates risk for farmers. So we believe that working very closely with national authorities for the release of varieties is a key step in ensuring that producers in each country have access to a diversity of varieties, to have that choice so that they can choose what varieties work best for them and their market opportunity, and to ultimately stabilize export revenues that countries rely on, but as well to stabilize production performance that farmers need. Farmers want high-performing varieties that work well in their production system, and the more choice a farmer has, the more varieties to choose from, the greater likelihood that they'll be successful, that they'll find something that works best in their farm. Looking ahead, we have a tremendous amount of optimism at WCR. We often see the information in the media that's talking about the concerns that the Arabica is really at risk, and that land area is not conducive to the future of coffee production. That's true only if you don't have innovation. If it's really hot and you can use an air conditioner, you're not hot anymore. And so that may be not the greatest climate resilient metaphor, but the point is that technology can change the direction of travel. With technology, we can actually generate varieties that are much more climate resilient, higher yielding, with lower risk associated with disease or pest susceptibility. Technology creates opportunity. And so all of these negative stories we see in the press is assuming that the world's not doing anything. But those of you who invest in WCR are. And the breeding outputs are not in the far too distant future. In 2030, we will be releasing 100 new Arabica inbred lines. These are varieties that can be propagated with seed. If you plant the tree, it can actually use the seed for propagation. This is something that is desperately needed to increase the amount of innovation in our coffee system. And it is because of our partnership with all of the National Coffee Institutes that you heard from in the video. It is all of their collaborative effort that's making this possible for us to accelerate. As you saw from Dr. Chiserik in Kenya, she commented that this global network is about doing something faster and more effectively and better. And that's what we're doing together with National Coffee Institutes to drive forward on generating varieties much faster than it's been ever, and at a scale that coffee's never seen before. The volume of new varieties that will be generated in the next decade, in the next 2 decades, will be completely different than anything the industry has seen before. And this creates tremendous opportunity, but also tremendous urgency to work closely with national authorities to figure out how can we ensure that the correct varieties are released and get through the variety registration system in each producing country to ensure that they're available. As I mentioned previously about the nursery team, they are highly motivated in the countries where they're working and the regions where they're working to ensure that these varieties, the best ones, are making their way through the system so that farmers in each producing country that seek new innovation and new varieties to address the challenges that they're facing are available and are the right thing for what they need. And so we are 6 years away from this tremendous infusion of new genetics. And every 3 to 6 years after that, a new flush of material will be made available that will transform what's possible in coffee production. And so all of these very negative stories that we're hearing will hopefully become a thing of the past. And it's through the dedicated work of our Innovea partners and ultimately our Robusta Network partners that will be born over the coming year as we put this program together to ensure that every origin has the genetics they need to succeed in the global markets. And again, I wanted to be really clear that there's the short and medium term and there's the long-term work that we talk about. But today, we know that 38% of WCR member companies invest in renovation projects in Peru. And we know from our multi-location variety trial that there were a couple of varieties that had pretty good performance in Peru. And so in working with authorities in Peru, we have brought in 2 varieties, Parainema and IPR 107, which are 2 new varieties to the country that have performed well in the tests. And this is an example of concrete, immediate action, bringing this project into to Peru to create access to these materials. And I would characterize this is our beta test. How does this work? When you get high performance data from a global trial, you understand the opportunity at a national level. And as Tanya mentioned earlier, at the end of this year, we're going to have this very powerful analytic tool in partnership with CIAT, the Colombia-based International Research Center, that will give every country information about which varieties, based on the multi-location variety data, which varieties work well in their country to help national authorities prioritize which variety makes sense. So this activity in Peru is showing that it's possible, that you can identify high-performing materials, work closely with partners on the ground to get seed lots in place, and to show that this can work for many other countries as these data become more available and as we work with national authorities to find the right way to bring new varieties into the country that's compliant with national laws. So this is something that's very exciting, that we are now at a moment in the time that WCR has been around to deliver this. We've been around since 2012 doing this work, and it is now that these concrete outcomes are happening. And every year, as we get closer to 2030, there will be even greater understanding of how to deploy high-performing varieties through planting material distribution systems, and working closely with national authorities to facilitate this, to get better material to farmers faster and responsibly, to ensure they have healthy plants and genetically conforming plants so that farmers get the performance they want and governments have confidence in the performance of the entire sector to stabilize export revenues and ultimately for our industry to have the supply that we need. And that's fundamentally why we are so appreciative of our member companies who make this investment, because without this investment, this isn't possible. And so it's so exciting that we're able to do this and build on the tremendous work of our own team and our network of partners. So as we forge the path forward, we believe that our program needs to expand from just a focused and targeted investment in breeding, which was the work that we've undertaken over the last few years, is to really bring a best-in-class breeding team, build the Innovea network, and in the coming year and a half, building that Robusta breeding network to ensure that key strategic national partners are included in the design of technologies, the selection of materials, the collection of data, and true partnership in building this network and ensuring that varieties are available. So first we need to create these varieties, and that's what breeding delivers. As we look to the future, we need to be testing these materials. Government authorities need to feel confident in the performance of varieties before they allow their release in a country. And we absolutely want to protect farmers to ensure that they have the best quality material and high quality data to inform decision-making on the selection of a new variety. And with that, I think it's this forging a path forward, the expansion of our trials program to bring this value to farmers, and ultimately the nursery program, which will be the concrete last mile steps to ensure this material gets into the hands of farmers, are the areas that we're working in the months and years ahead. So we are so excited, and I'll turn it over to Alexa now for bringing on the questions.
Thank you, Vern. So I trust that we've given you all a lot to think about. If you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A tab. Also, look at the ones that have already been posted and feel free to upvote any that you think are of particular interest to you. So while we wait for any more questions, I just want to address 2 more points with you. One, to keep abreast of our research progress, I really encourage you to find us at an industry event this year and connect with us in person. You can see a few of them listed here. We will also be at more. To those of you who are members, please remember to register for our Member Day in Costa Rica in November. We'd love to see you there. And then if you aren't already doing so, sign up for our newsletter or follow us on your favorite social channel. And I'll leave this slide up as we transition to some questions. So the first one, Tanya, I'm going to hand over to you. Top of the list from our friend Paul Rook at BCA. With climate change impacts being increasingly experienced, can traditional plant breeding techniques keep pace?
That's an interesting question. So, if you think about traditional breeding done in a traditional way, one of the most restricting elements of it is it tends to be done in one location. And so one of the advantages we have in doing breeding in this globally coordinated way through this network approach means that we have all of this different data about how this same material performs in different climates. So while we are using traditional breeding approaches, crossing 2 flowers, pollen from one, onto a female flower, the other, this global data set and this evaluation in multiple environments allows us to be thinking about the future. So if the Kenyans, for example, are looking at their material, they need to be thinking about the climate that they're facing in the future. So they are able to tap into this global data set and make the selections out of their own material that's really going to help them keep pace with climate change. So the very fact that we're doing it in a globally coordinated way allows us to get ahead of that challenge.
Thank you, Tanya. A question, Vern, I'll hand over to you since you addressed the nursery sector work. Our friend William Solano at Cartier asked, with this new methodology, referring to the SNP panel, is it possible to carry out DNA analysis directly on farms or nurseries using portable equipment?
So the technology certainly is possible. The product or service that we have generated is very efficient use on farm for collecting samples and high throughput operations. So if you send the sample to Sweden, it takes less than 2 weeks turnaround to get a response. So I think that the point here is that that technology is possible to develop. It's not the technology that we have. And I think the question is, how can we make sure that processes are cheap and fast And so the current methodology is the cheapest and fastest available right now in coffee. And I'll turn it over to Tanya if there are other tools. She's worked in many other commodities and might have some insights for the future if investors were interested in pursuing.
Yeah, I think, that would be the dream, to have an on-site instant result in the fields. So I'm not really aware of any DNA-based tool that can do that to the level of detail needed for variety identification. But we've been able to really streamline the process so that it's pretty simple. Walk out in the field, you take a bunch of leaf punches off the plants, you package it up, you send it off to Sweden, and like Vern said, you get the results in a very short time. So we've really made it as efficient as possible. But sure, I think that would be a great next step, to see that kind of DNA analysis being truly field-based. That'd be great, but I don't think we're not there yet.
Okay, so moving from DNA analysis to breeding, Tanya, Angela Dansby asked, are there breeding challenges that are unique to Arabica versus Robusta?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we talk about breeding, you'll notice increasingly we say less coffee. We talk more about Arabica and Robusta, because really they're quite different challenges. We're doing a lot of the same approaches, but our breeding team is certainly thinking in different ways. And so one of the most obvious examples is coffee leaf rust, which has been absolutely devastating in Arabica and is a top priority for our Arabica breeding program. We know there's resistant material out there, and we want to integrate it into the breeding pipeline. So coffee leaf rust resistance is a super high priority in Arabica. Robusta tends to be naturally more resistant to coffee leaf rust. So it's certainly not completely resistant. There is some coffee leaf rust in Robusta, but it's a lot lower of a priority. So if we're looking at Robusta and thinking about trait priorities, we're not going to be as highly focused on coffee leaf rust. Instead, we may be looking at other pests and diseases, but more likely we're going to be looking at things like drought and heat tolerance, which are really, really critical. So the traits are going to be different. And then, of course, quality. Quality is an important trait for Arabica and Robusta. But when you dissect that out and start to define what does quality mean and what are the specific things we're looking for, it's likely to be different in Arabica and Robusta, because these target two different parts of the market. So yes, really the challenges in both are going to be quite unique.
Thank you for parsing that for us. Vern, can I ask you, our friend Gabriel Baruch in Spain asked, are you considering the commercial development of other species such as race mosa? And we field that question often for a number of wild species that are in the press or that get people excited. Can you speak to our thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So our focus is on ensuring a robust global supply of Arabica and Robusta, because the risk to supply is real. Climate change is a huge constraint. However, breeding has been a tremendously successful intervention. Variety development has been wildly successful in many other commodities to reduce that risk and shore up supply. What it takes to run a high throughput global breeding program is not inconsequential. The investment that our member companies are making to run 2 global breeding programs is significant, but that's what it takes to ensure global supply, is that we must have a vibrant, high-performing breeding program for the key species. We believe that there are many different types of interventions to address the fundamental challenge posed by climate change. There's also the market opportunity of new species, Racemosa, Eugenoides. I mean, I tasted a few of these at SCA a couple of years ago, and it was very exciting for these, from a consumer perspective, the excitement. As we noted, the $452 million investment gap is large. And so when we think about framing, targeting our resources, my recommendation to the industry, and it's the position that I have as the, running WCR, is I'm accountable to the industry, and the risk we face as an industry is supply. Our focus is targeting resources to the greatest return on investment so that you as investors feel confident in the outcome that you get. We believe that the best use of resources is to run a high throughput global breeding program for Arabica and Robusta. And we welcome, through our global advocacy efforts, to engage and encourage governments who are interested in diversifying species, there are many programs that are interested in that. We would be the first to say that coffee species should be included in those initiatives, not just other crop species, but that coffee species should be explored. That to us is a far more exploratory area and maybe has niche opportunities in particular origins. From our perspective, a high throughput breeding program for global supply risk mitigation, our focus will remain on Arabica and Robusta.
Thank you, Vern. Tanya, there's a question that just came in, which begs an important point of clarification given our global audience. And this person asked, when you talk about working with local authorities, local partners, what exactly does that mean?
So typically what we call them loosely national coffee institutes, but what that means is the government funded research body that is responsible for coffee in that country. And typically these organizations are the gatekeepers to variety introductions in their country. So we tend to partner with those organizations as early as possible, even on breeding, if they have breeding capacity. But we work with them as much as we can because they're the ones who are going to help smooth that introduction of the variety into the country. And in very practical ways, often they propagate and release the material directly to farmers themselves. So they are a critical partner in nearly every country we work in.
Thank you. I'm going to follow that one up with our last question, just given the hour. Our friend Leme Beksisa from Ethiopia asked a great question. Is it possible to understand the genetic potential of varieties within only 2 or 3 years?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good question. And certainly that's a big priority for our breeding team, is to really challenge ourselves to do things smarter, faster, quicker, cheaper, all of those things. And so, very often the best way to evaluate is through multiple years of trees in the field. But wherever possible, we can use genomics tools, genetic markers, some way of getting a quick look at the plant. If we can have a genetic marker for a disease-resistant trait, for example, we can test that seedling as soon as it germinates. And that cuts years off the breeding cycle compared to having it in the field for years. And so genetic potential is a very broad term. Something like yields, you really need to see the performance over years, but you can get very specific when you're looking for specific things like disease resistance genes. So we try to do all of the above and very much are focused on shortening timelines as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. I see that we have more questions and I apologize, but we're at the hour and we need to release everyone. So thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate your interest and your engagement in this important work. For those of you who are in the coffee industry, I encourage and challenge you to get involved. Come talk to me about membership, advocate with your national government for more funding for coffee research, as Vern explained earlier. We look forward to hearing from you and continuing the conversation as we journey together.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.